blanket pointed up like this?
Hold on a minute.
We get Eddie on location. I think he was cast here in L.A.
Here's your blanket.
They take him out there and he can't swim. He can't swim at all.
Eddie, swim! Swim fast! It's a shark, Eddie! Swim!
May have added to the sequence that he was afraid of the water because he's supposed to be afraid of the shark.
Oh, God, Eddie, swim! Faster, hurry!
I felt very early on that we shouldn't see the shark.
Eddie, hurry! Faster, come on!
We just didn't know exactly how to do it. And at one point, the idea came, why don't we just have him being pushed?
So they rigged some kind of harness and they drug him with a rope.
The idea that Eddie would get a death grip on the boat and be holding on so hard that when the shark pulled him away, he pulled a piece of the boat with it. That splintering of the wood told us, how desperate his grip was, how strong the shark was, and it's a great horror film moment to see, a human being breaking wood just because they can't let go.
Make it go away! Make it go away!
From the beginning, I had this thing about being on the shark behind the fin. And so we had a special frame made for the camera, and the frame went on the shark. Well, it didn't work. And finally, I had this idea. I said, let's get a cowboy saddle. We got a cowboy saddle, we put it on the shark, and then the operator did it handheld. He jumped on the saddle. It was hilarious to watch. We just spent the whole day on that shot, and we weren't getting in the sun. The light was getting down. The timing was never right, because again, you had to let the boat that was pulling the shark go by. Either the buoy was pulled too soon and the shark were late, either the shark was early and it blunted its nose against the buoy, either it hit the sailboat and suddenly it started doing whatever it wanted. It was not an exact science. Finally, at the end of the day, it was one of the last shots. Things went wrong a little bit, but in the right direction. What happened is the pilot boat made a wider curve, and suddenly the shark was much more parallel, and we had this incredible approach. And you can see the mouth open. It's unbelievable. Just as they pull, and he was white as a sheet, because he suddenly was inside the mouth of that huge beast. I mean, I got goosebumps watching it.
When I first read the script, it said shark eats helicopter. I go, boy, this is stretching it. How are we going to pull this off? We saw this little Bell helicopter with pontoons, and it looked very small and very fragile next to our shark. And I said, well, this is credible. And the fact that sharks are attracted to sound and that the pontoons could look like seals, it created some credibility that this could be a sequence that wouldn't be laughed at, but could be pretty frightening.
We did all the approaches with the real helicopter shooting inside the POVs. And then the art department built this life-size replica of a helicopter, but that was much, much lighter, so the shark could destroy it.
Now hold on to something. Okay.
The first day, they started the blades, and it sort of started shaking, and it flipped over and wrecked the whole shot. The next day we come out, and the shark comes, and it miscues, and it gets locked onto the camera boat, and so we had to wrap. The fourth day, we finally got the shot where the shark grabs the pontoons and turns it over.
When I was an actor in the movie of MASH, we actually had a helicopter that, lost power on a takeoff and went into the woods. So I've actually seen a helicopter crash close up. So I knew some of the things that you don't see in movie helicopter crashes, which are usually just spectacular fiery explosions. The disintegration of the tail rotor and the main rotors is a spectacular moment. I mean, things go whizzing through the air at almost supersonic speeds. I can remember listening to an enthusiastic crowd of kids outside of a theater, having just seen the movie, and one of them saying, "Jaws, eat a helicopter this time."
I came up with the idea where really the shark obliterates this person, and then that person is gone. That was a very, very difficult shot, because what happened is, this was with the luxurious shark, and we had to put the shark in position so that when it came out, it would be the right angle. Then what was happening is that that shark had to come out, and she had to be pulled back down by some underwater divers at the same time. I think it took us a whole day to do that one shot, because we got it, but it never worked exactly. I mean, she was early, the shark was late. At that point, I didn't know whether it would work or not, or what impact. I just had this idea. And then when we saw it, it was just incredible how strong it was and how economical, because it's one shot.
I'm sorry, Larry. I can't stop thinking about this.
Would you put it try? Hey, come on!
God, please help us. Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of Christ.
There's a famous painting called the Raft of the Medusa, which shows survivors on a raft struggling against the forces of the sea. And I think the intent was to get some of that into the movie. And Jeannot, who knows art history as well as anyone, I think, was familiar with that painting.
The contribution to Jaws 2 was largely the result of Jeannot Szwarc's direction. He gave it a bit of sophistication, visual sophistication.
Where is it? Where are we getting out of here?
I thought there was remarkable scenes with the kids in the water. I think that was some of Jeannot's best work. Most all of his action sequences, I think, stood up with the first picture very strongly. And I think he did an admirable job in inventing ways to keep the tension alive, even though you had seen it in the first picture and you've seen it now here again. I thought he did that quite brilliantly.
Cable Junction's ahead. Can we make it? I don't know.
We needed an island, and even if we could find an island, we couldn't shoot an island with the shark mechanism, because the shark sat on a platform and it moved like that. So islands come off like this, so we couldn't get close to the island. But if it's on a barge, the shark could get real close to the island because it has no bottom. The island was like two huge barges. And I got to tell you, this was like a major, major build. It was incredible. I don't know, thousands and thousands of square feet of fiberglass rock, and we had this old aged structure on it.
And we anchored it in this place. And of course, suddenly the Coast Guard's got a lot of calls about people who used to go fishing there all their lives and suddenly see this island that they never seen before. And then the weather got really, really bad. And one night I remember I was awakened by the Coast Guards, and the island had broken all its chains. The Coast Guard said, "Jeannot, your island is on its way to Cuba right now." So they had to send other boats to go and bring the island back. I think it was the next morning after the island was on its way to Cuba, I suddenly got this call, and Joe and I rushed to where the platform shark was. The ocean was so bad that the platform was like this. It was on its side. And there were divers holding it with lines to prevent it from toppling over. And if it would have toppled over, it would have been the end of the luxurious shark. But eventually he got it back down.
Pull yourselves over. I'm gonna get the hell out of here.
As in the case with Jaws, we still were able to master the shark swimming away. So we used some of Ron and Valerie Taylor's footage, similar to what we had used in Jaws. That footage always worked for us. Whenever we needed a little bit of something, you know, a little bit of movement, speed that we couldn't produce with our mechanical shark, we had that great footage that they had done.
We were all in Navarre Beach. We'd been there from August 1st. We were there till December 22nd.
I never thought I'd see a Christmas tree in the Holiday Inn where the crew was staying, or our young actors having to put ice cubes in their mouth to prevent their breath from showing because we were shooting a summer scene in December.
It was crucial to finish that location before the holidays. Not only so we wouldn't be lynched, but also in order to finish the picture because we still had all of post-production underwater and things waiting. So finally someone came to the studio, the idea that we would work without a break. The crew asked me, I said, will you give us your word that no matter what, you will not shoot past December 22nd? So I gave my word. And then I told Zanuck, I said, look, we're gonna be working straight, so there's gotta be a party every Saturday night so we know it's Saturday night. And we worked 22 days without a break. We broke down the end of the shark in chunks. So we did the approach, getting the shark in position. Now, the whole blowing up had to be done separately. It was a special head that you put around the cable, you know, it was tied, and then you blew up. And that was the last shot. It was the last shot of the last day before we were taking the charter plane the next day to leave the location. And we had to shoot it when the light was low, something to do with the exposure of the explosion. So we're trying, I had, I think, 6 cameras, and everybody, the whole crew is around. Michael Butler is looking at the horizon, says, you got 2 minutes left. And I said, okay, we go. And they put the wires, and we had a battery malfunction. And I really thought everybody was gonna kill me. And then suddenly, the assistant and I swim together, get the boat battery. So the special effects guy, he switched the battery very quickly. This was like a movie, you know. The light is going down, the light is going down, and finally, shh. That night we had a huge party, and the next day we took the charter and went home. From the beginning, I think we all agreed that the film could not be too long, that we wanted it lean. I remember we lost some scenes that were good, actually, that had to do with more of the development of character between Lorraine, Gary, and Roy Scheider.
You're jealous. You are.
There was more about the enmity between Roy Scheider and his wife's boss, Joe Mascolo.
Now he's gonna get it.
There was a scene where he gives him a ticket.
I was only parking here for a second. Brody, I went inside to get my briefcase and I was gonna take right off.
Can I see your license and registration?
You're kidding.
Nope.
Honey, don't you have any pull with the chief here?
Oh, would you please take it out of the plastic folder?
No, I won't mention his personal attack on me.
I've never seen him like this.
Hendricks is a qualified deputy. I say that we use him.
There was a scene when they fired Roy Scheider. There's a vote, and Murray Hamilton ends up voting for Roy. He's the only one.
All those in favor?
Anyone opposed?
And we ended up losing that scene. I suspect that we felt it was slowing the whole thing down. There was also some elements of the helicopter sequence. The pilot was being attacked underwater.
was essential that Jaws 2, as with Jaws, get at least a PG rating that would permit children to see it. Otherwise, we'd lose most of our audience. We had a body count that exceeded any movie we had ever made. We were acutely aware of the rating problem, and we did reduce it to some degree. Dick Zanuck and I were so infatuated with Jaws 2 that we had an idea for Jaws 3. Our idea for Jaws 3 was Jaws 3, people nothing. And it was going to be a send-up of Jaws 2 and Jaws.
We were going to do a spoof because we thought that was the only way to pull it off, to do it as a spoof, but not to do it as a scare movie anymore.
The attitude at Universal was, you're fouling your nest. You can't do this. We should have fouled the nest. It would have been golden, maybe even platinum. I think that Jaws 2 did about a third or maybe 40% of the original, which was gargantuan, which suggested to the motion picture industry that if monster movies could give birth to sequels that did 40% of the original, that was a good business because there wasn't as much risk.
I think we may have another shark problem.
But the sequel business is very tricky. It's become almost a cliche. But Jaws 2 was obligatory.
Showed them a picture of that shark. They didn't see it. See only what they want to see.
It was an enormous challenge for us as producers, but we had to make a good film. We just didn't want to throw out a cheap copy. We had to provide them with some depth wherever we could with these characters and a different kind of story.
Because I don't intend to go through that hell again.
In many ways, it was tougher to do the second one than the first because we were competing with the first, and it was a tough act to follow.
The first one, you couldn't beat the three guys. That was a relationship, you know. This was more about a community and its fight with the shark.
One of the reasons Jaws 2 is a successful sequel is Jeannot Szwarc, the director, did some fantastic visuals to go along with the story. You know, putting cameras on fish and special effects and all that to get those spectacular POVs, that was Jeannot's work.
I'm very proud of it when I look at it. The odds were extraordinary, the difficulties were immense. I don't know how we did it. I think we did it day by day, but when I look at it, it stands on its own and it works.
Hello, baby, I'm home.